Hello everyone, thanks for taking the time to watch this video. I really appreciate the support you've given and I will continue to produce content. This time I want to focus on the cultural aspect that you need to be aware of as you engage in building or even buying a house in Jamaica. I want to start off with two stories. Yes, two stories. Stories are powerful in highlighting things. Roughly 2 decades ago, I saw a man in the Jamaica Cleaner. He had his hand outwards, stretched, pointing to an area. The area was empty. He had come from overseas to visit his new home, and what he saw was the empty spot. You might ask how this is possible. Yes, this is possible because this man had received pictures from the contractor of every single room in the home. Yes, the contractor kept him up to date as it relates to the foundation, the building, the cantilever, and every aspect of that building. So when he returned and saw an empty spot that his house should have been, he was in shock. Can you imagine that man? Yes, it happened in Jamaica. Unscrupulous contractors continue to plague many individuals. But there are still some trustworthy people in Jamaica, and understanding the culture is going to be imperative in finding these individuals. Now, let's take for instance another woman. She sent money from England to build her dream home. She gave the money to her son, and when she thought the house was ready, the son kept delaying. And he said to her eventually, "Send your things home." She packed 2 trailers, sent it off to Jamaica. She bought her plane ticket and decided to fly from England to Jamaica. Her son had sent someone to pick her up at the airport. And during the drive to the place that was built, she started to build a traveling man. She stopped. She had pork. They drank coconut water. She was good to the man. And when she realized the man made a wrong turn, she asked, "Why are you not going to my home?" He said, "Lady, you have been so good to me. I can't do what I've been sent here to do. Your son has been planning to ensure that you do not return to your home." The reality is the son was ready to ensure her demise. Understanding the cultural climate in Jamaica is important because those you think you trust are far from being trustworthy. So you have to understand that if you have left Jamaica 20 years and have never visited the island, you are in a cultural deficit. It means you do not understand how Jamaica has changed. Fast forward, my friend has never been to Jamaica over 25 years, and when he returned, he realized that things had changed drastically to the point he was in total confusion. So if you have plans on returning to Jamaica or doing anything in Jamaica, let me say that understanding the concept that you will need to visit Jamaica frequently is going to be important. The frequency of your visit establishes your network in Jamaica. It establishes your ability to understand the culture of Jamaica. Yes, you have to understand the people that you left in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and 80s, and 90s have somewhat changed. Yes, that concept is important. And if you're visiting over a period of time, you'd understand that things have changed. Now, one of the things that seem to be lacking in many situations is the issue of trust. How do you know who to trust? And of course, that is challenging. I can't tell you I'm an expert, but I can say to you, I've built it and I've understood some aspect of the Jamaican culture as it relates to building. You have to have a representative in Jamaica representing you in an official capacity. I'm not saying signing over anything, but someone who has your interest. I started my building journey back in 1995, and it was a rude awakening. I remember getting the foundation started. Yes, and when it came up and I asked the workmen what was the cost, that was the cost. And I said, "Oh goodness, I have that money, so I'm ready for that." But when it was finished, he said to me, "I didn't remember to add this. I didn't remember to add that. I didn't remember to put in that for the work I did on that." But sir, you gave me an initial cost. We agreed on it, and now you are changing your permit as it relates to payment. You know what? I didn't fuss and I didn't fight. What I said, what's the final cost? I gave him his money and I said to him, do not return next week because we have a misunderstanding, because I like to know what I'm getting into. In Jamaica, there are some elements that say that they do not want to be disrespected. So you have to be very careful of that. Take, for instance, the man who did some work for me and I was very nice to him. So I came back from one of my trips, brought a nice circular saw, and I said to him, let's work it out. Do some work for me and then you can have the saw. And of course, on that Friday evening, he took the saw, never to return. Never gave me back my saw. And one day I saw him in Montego Bay and I said, in a nice way, I said, why did you do that? You know, it's not nice. I trusted you and you did that to me. I said to him, you should not have taken the saw knowing that you're not coming back. And he felt guilty and he offered to work with me again. And I say, sir, you know, with all due respect, it's all right to keep the saw. But I've learned my lesson from that. He wanted to come back to work, but I've learned one thing: once bitten, twice shy. So building that rapport over the years, I developed an understanding of how workmen are. You cannot give them more than what they've worked for. And you should not owe them, because that's a problem. Remember, Jamaica is a place where incomes are sometimes low. Individuals need to work to pay their bills. And if you ask someone to work, it means that you must pay them afterwards. Pay them. Do not delay. If you have transfer issues, tell them. That's important as it relates to the money. But do not allow someone to work for you knowing that you do not have the money. That's a recipe for disaster. I've heard stories about one man who started his house. He completed the house. And he asked some individuals to paint the house. He was from England, as a matter of fact. And he asked the individuals to paint the house. They painted the house, and he was not satisfied with the painting. And as a matter of fact, he complained and refused to pay the individuals. The individuals were, of course, upset. And of course, you know what happened. Sadly to say, he did not live to enjoy the wonderful space. Let me say that the man had every right to object, but we have to understand that in some contexts, I've always heard people say you can't tame certain individuals. It means that you have to always be on your guard. Just like United States, England, wherever you live, you have to understand that not everyone will see you as someone who they can talk with or engage with. Understanding the culture that some individuals are revengeful. So you have to be very careful. Another thing that I've gained an understanding of is the need to respect workers. Respect them, treat them good. You don't want to be seen as the don, the boss, or the person with the role of cash. You're a struggling person trying to make it, and sometimes they won't believe it. And you have to tell your stories about the struggles that you're having in order to ensure that they at least are not convinced that you have a bag of money lying around, which is far from the truth. So therefore, building respect. Many individuals have left Jamaica. They have gone, and of course, they have thrown a stone, as some people say, behind them. Now, coming back to Jamaica, as I stated before, needs a network. So you have to understand that if you left your high school friends and so forth, many of them are professionals now. They have also strived in the capacity. Some have strived beyond the boundaries of where you are. So you have to meet these connections with them because they are the professionals in the field. They know the best builders. They have friends who they can confide in as it relates to the best deals around the town. So if you're thinking about coming back, make sure you have an emerging network. Never forget the value of returning residents coming together to understand what they need to do. So if you are coming back, join various returning residents groups that you can be a part of them. But these are things that you have to understand. A lot of individuals might decide, you know what, I'm going to take some money around. But let me say, do not take cash. Always transfer money. If a builder is building for you and he demands that you only pay him by cash. That's a recipe for disaster. You can't track your money that you're paying in. And secondly, you put yourself at risk. So these are things. But as you build, you have to understand that there are many people who are going to give you ideas that are worthy. But here, you must take it within the context of doing that too. Now, many people have started building in Jamaica, and they've started this 10-bedroom, 5-bedroom home, and so forth. There are so many unfinished homes in Jamaica that will leave your mouth open. Some individuals thought they would have won the lotto or something else, but I can't understand why would you have started so big. So think of a project. Think about getting that project started, and then you move on. Move on from a 2-bedroom, and then you expand. So you build for capacity and sustainability, because if you're not having that framework for sustainable income to move forward, then your, of course, house will not be built. Building a dream home in Jamaica requires some level of innovation too. You have to understand the landscape. Here am I talking to someone who is directing me regarding the landscape of this home. He has no idea how the landscape would work. And to be honest, I was fearful of this. But take this conversation in. This door.
Why won't build a house that's still, too much effort.
Yeah, you see, it depends, you see, from you can get a good road if you come up there, you know, you are deal with all the tractor, pay a split level.
Split level house. Well, look on that house, look on the incline, man. You have to build a house yourself.
No, well, a good for your house, so sit down pass so in, then you need a load to when you see them put so sitting for that. When you see them, the house, they don't know.
But we know, but guess what? We carry material up here and whole pass. Look on the coconut tree.
That place you need to go that drive go down path a road.
Oh.
That better. For you see, let me tell you, see one thing where they do, where the workshop then a road could have built part of the workshop. Come back up here so. But you know, through the end of the workshop this so you don't have to have a road that you have a truck can go through it sitting.
Okay.
Let me say.
Yeah.
Yeah, material, the amount of material you have to keep your head, the money could have built the house.
You see, everyone gives idea about building, and we have to ensure that we take the right idea. Now, regulations. Follow the legal regulations as it relates to building. You know, there's a culture that you can pay everyone off and do that, so be very careful because you might end up paying too much and still it might have been better if you've gone through the legal system to get things done. Remember, my idea, my belief, the culture in some places in Jamaica is to see what they can get from you regardless. Now, building in Jamaica requires your presence. I say it requires your presence. You have to be physically present in Jamaica at various stages of your building. The work must progress according to your project. And when I say project management, I say, you know what? It's all about what you want at a period of time, where it should be, and the money you're spending. And of course, keep a running tab of how the money is being spent and what it's being spent for. You don't want to go back to Jamaica to be paying for something twice. You know, the ability to listen, watch, learn, see how they approach you. Be careful of those individuals who are too over-friendly. For instance, take Bobby. I met Bobby in Jamaica roughly 7 years ago when I visited my people back in Jamaica, and I said to them, do not let Bobby enter your house. They did not listen. And there were some reasons for me saying that. For example, the way Bobby talked, he said this, he said that. And one of the things that drove the nail into the board was when Bobby said he had to check with the police from time to time. And I said to them, this is a guy you do not want to have around you. Fast forward a couple of months after, they realized that Bobby was stealing. Bobby was doing all sorts of evil things around. Hence, we have to be mindful. Be mindful of when people overpromise on things. So building requires everything. And I want to say that if you don't want to build, there's another side to it, and you have to understand the culture. So we've spoken about respect, carrying your money around, getting your network of people, understanding that you have to build a community, checking in your community consistently, building your network, building connections with various returning residents group. These are all a part of building the culture. So you have to understand the need to do so. I've also mentioned earlier the need to ensure that you have stability, understanding your project, tracking your project, and ensuring that you are checking in regularly. Now, you might not want to go through the process of having to do all of that. Let me say that if you don't want to build, you might decide, you know what, you want to buy. And that's part of it too. But notwithstanding, you still have to do your due diligence. I think it's important that you always get a lawyer involved, get your individuals involved, that you need to do so. But I want to see the property market has improved in Jamaica drastically over the last time. Take, for instance, Ocean Point. Ocean Point started at 14.5, and I'm showing pictures of it now. 14.5 for the 2x1. Then it was roughly 16.5 for the 2x2. And of course, the 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms were approximately 24 million. Fast forward today, we're looking at prices from 2019, and now it's roughly 4 or 5 years after. We're looking at prices roughly from 38 million going up to 45 million, with a possibility of people getting even 50 million Jamaican dollars if they have improved their homes. You take the headache out of having to do all the things that I've talked about to just having one purchase point. And Ocean Point has a lot to offer. I remember telling people about this investment and they hesitated only to the point to have regrets. So I'm not saying to jump in, but always do your research. Have someone on the ground. And the bottom line is, why I found out about Ocean Point is because I have my connections that I've never given up over the years. I have dear friends that I continue to talk to on a weekly basis in Jamaica, or on a daily basis for some. We meet that connection. I use WhatsApp to keep connected. I use the Jamaican news to keep connected. I listen to Popeye News to keep connected. Yes, I keep all of these things to be connected to Jamaica, to know what's going on. So you might want to look at various developments, and of course there are some things you need to understand, but you still have to go down to look. Now, having said that, there are some builders building some homes. It is expensive for some, but there are some emerging developments taking place across Jamaica that I think are worthy of people looking in. I'm not going to make any recommendations. That is not my remit at this point in time. But I just wanted to touch base with you as it relates to building. Building takes time, and the pictures that you've seen, some of them highlight the stages that I've gone through, moving from one aspect to the next. But reality is, Jamaica has a capacity for everyone. Everyone needs a piece of Jamaica, because you would never understand the capacity of what's taking place in Jamaica. And if you want to know more, I have some videos at the bottom. Remember to click on these videos to see where Jamaica is heading at this point in time. But before I end, I want to say that a lot of people have moved from the countryside where they normally lived. And I've seen so many abandoned homes as I travel the interior of Jamaica. Here are just some of them. And as you look around, you wonder, people lived here once. They lived here, they had dinners here, they cooked here, and of course, it's like an ancestral home, but they've been forgotten. There's so many land space that is yet to be developed in Jamaica. And if you want a piece of Jamaica, you don't have to live in the town or in the city. Notwithstanding, one of the biggest things for me is that I've said to people I would not live in these rural areas because I think security is important. Yes, you have to think about your security at all times, and that is going to be important. Remember, not everyone who will come around in Jamaica and say they're your friends, they will be your friends. And that happens to Jamaicans living in Jamaica too. They'll tell you the same. So you have to understand, you have to be there. And by immersing yourself in Jamaica on various visits, you understand what's happening. So if you've not visited Jamaica for the longest while, for the last 2 or 3 years, my issue is, if you have intentions of doing something in Jamaica, visit your country. Take a visit often, at least once a year. For me, every time I get a chance, I go to Jamaica. I sit with my people. I sit with my classmates. I call them up if we can't meet. We just have a discussion on our WhatsApp chat. So I do have connections. First, in building that culture, you have to be in that culture. In summary, for you to have a consistent idea or be a part of the culture, you have to be involved. You can do this by WhatsApp, by listening to news, by traveling to Jamaica, which is important, by keeping your network of friends, by making connections to broken bridges and lost relationships. That's how you're going to do it. Even if you bought a house and came back to Jamaica, You'll have a lonely feeling because guess what? You have no connection to Jamaica based on your absence. And in addition, you have no network of friends to ensure that you are socially engaged. And remember, Jamaica is a party island. All right, thanks. And that's all for now.